I'm John Skinner, and this supports my online Fluke class at saltstrong.com/Skinner. I'll have links to all of the gear in the description of the video, and I'll also have a link to a video on how to tie the rig. Okay, we're 2 weeks into the New York fluke fishing season, and you know the fishing's really not very good. You really got to work for every fish, and the reports are very consistent in that respect. To make it a little more difficult this trip, we've got a wind over tide situation. It's actually kind of hitting on an angle, this wind, and this is, I think, my third trip out now that I've had the trolling motor, and it's going to see a lot of use this trip. There we go. There we go. Finally. Yeah. So before I even bring that fish in the boat, I'm taking a mark and getting that on my plotter. This is my third season now since I've moved, so I still don't consider myself very experienced on these waters. I'm still learning to some extent, and I'm slightly off of where I normally fish because this is a weekend, and I know it doesn't look it, but there's a lot of boats out, and probably a quarter mile from here there's about 30 boats, including party boats, charter boats, private boats. It's quite a few people out there. So I'm trying to avoid that situation, and there's some waters east of where I normally fish that I had some fish near the end of the season, so I've got 2 or 3 marks in the general area on my plotter, and I decided to work that spot over, and yeah, so this is encouraging. All right, a little look on what I'm doing with the trolling motor. You know, I'm not doing any of the fancy stuff yet. I'm not controlling it with that Humminbird fish finder. I'm just using that handheld remote. I'm just spinning it around, putting it in the direction I want to go. Now, one thing I did learn since my last video is one of the buttons on there, the autopilot right there, I just pushed it. What that does is if I look at the plotter, it draws a purple line showing where the trolling motor is going to go, and that's just awesome. I know you can't see detail here, but you can see a lot of red lines on the right-hand side of the screen. Those are my drift tracks. You can see they're pretty tight together, and so what I'm doing is using that handheld to just basically get a course going just for a few seconds, hit that autopilot, and if I don't like the line it draws, I just turn it off and I shift the boat and try it again. Get the purple line where I want to go, and from there on I just tweak the speed here and there, and wow, just that is great. I'm able to do a lot just with that functionality, and I'm dialing that speed in right around 1 mile an hour. So what you'll see me doing here with the remote is just bumping the speed up slightly because that wind's really hitting like up on a corner somewhat, and it's pushing the nose of the boat, so that you've got to have the motor pushing hard enough to be able to deal with that, and it's pretty easy to do. And the best thing is, you know, I can see that purple line on the plotter. I can also see the green line, which shows where the boat's going, so you have a very good read on what's going on. Oh yeah, nice. Oh yeah, bigger than the other one. So anyone who watches my fluke jigging videos knows that I use quantum accuracy reels because I like the flipping switch. I've had a lot of people say that they wish there was a sturdier, a more solid option than an Accurus. I don't know of any with the flipping switch. This one has a thumb bar that's very easy to basically just get your thumb underneath it and click it back up. So I'm kind of using it like a flipping switch. And it's funny because you kind of learn how to do that pretty quickly and then don't even realize you're doing it anymore. Where like right now my thumb's on the bar letting the line out, and then instead of just lifting my thumb goes underneath that bar, kicks it back up, and that doesn't take very long to get used to at all. And the reel is sweet. I mean, it's really smooth. It is a Daiwa Cuyahoga, although I probably said it wrong. Anyway, there's a link in the video description. All right, I know the trolling motor's in the water. I'm not actually using it. You might see when I look to the right, there's a lobster pot buoy there, and it kind of had me on a course towards that, and the current has changed, so it almost looks like maybe I don't need the trolling motor, so I've shut it off, and I'm just drifting free right now. So I'm finding that I'm using the trolling motor more than I had expected that I would. I originally had looked at it as a last resort for fluking, like when the drift was just so bad that you don't have any choice but to get moving somehow, I'd use the trolling motor. But as it turns out, I'm finding it easy enough to use that if I don't have a good drift, I'm going to make it a good drift. So yeah, so far so good, and I know I still have things to learn in terms of controlling it with that fish finder, but I'll get there.
Here he is.
Alright, I pretty much have the current direction and wind direction lined up, but that breeze is pretty stiff, and yeah, this is an aluminum boat, so I really catch the wind, and so I've got the drift sock out, but the trolling motor is not being used, so just the drift sock on this drift. So I apologize for the whiplash of me looking back and forth frequently in this particular spot. There's trap buoys here, and I just really need to keep my eyes open and not get hooked up on them. And this guy makes the 19-inch legal limit, which gives me 4, which is the bag limit, so I'm now limited out. And I'm going to bleed this guy. This really does a great job of preserving the meat. When you get that fish home, there won't be blood all over the fillet table. There won't be blood in the fillets. That fish is going to taste delicious. And oh, this guy had a porgy in him. That 19-incher ate that porgy. And here we go. This was the end of the day. Yep, chips and a pickle and ketchup. Can't go wrong. Here's a little bit of bonus footage. My morning started out by, I wanted to do something different with the trolling motor in terms of bass fishing. So I got in a rip, set the spot lock, so it just anchored me there. It's a pretty strong rip, and there wasn't much going on, but it was just nice to be able to make adjustments because I wasn't quite sure where there might be fish along this rip, and I was able to shift up and down a little bit. But yep, just got this one little guy. So all right, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check out my new fluke fishing course at saltstrong.com/Skinner.